Oh, hi, I'm Gunoro again, and nice to be back, but back on a sad occasion. Jonah Lomu has unexpectedly passed away, and whilst it's a great tragedy in terms of sport and global rugby, etc., it's a bigger tragedy for his two little sons and his wife. His abiding hope, apparently, over the last year or so, was to live long enough to see his two sons grow up to be 21 years of age, but that never was the case. Jonah Lomu came on the scene 1995 South African World Cup, 20-year-old, only played 2 games, and he had played some sevens, which probably made him a better player still because of the skills of sevens rugby. He came as a 20-year-old, hardly heard of. He left that World Cup as a world phenomenon, as the most destructive rugby player ever seen at that time. Now, world superstars are very rare, and there aren't too many of them, I suppose. There are a lot of great players, great sportsmen, people we all can remember over years, but he probably was the first rugby superstar. There'd been Pele, there'd been Cassius Clay, Tiger Woods has been, Michael Jordan, and of course these days Usain Bolt. But in rugby terms, it has got to be Jonah Lomu. Was he the best player ever? We can never say that, because as I keep on maintaining, every era brings its good and great and outstanding players. And then when you say best of the greatest ever, what are we on about? The wing, backs, half-backs, positions. It is very difficult to give that accolade as the greatest player ever, but without doubt he was the most destructive force for a 20-year-old that ever emerged in the rugby scene. I remember great wings. We had Kerwin, and also we had Tony O'Reilly from Ireland. He was an 18-year-old who became a star of the British Lions. And then we had Duckham and people of that kind. Smaller players as well, mind. Gerald Davis, Shane Williams, San Andre. But for sheer power and strength, searing pace, handling the ball when he was running, he was quite outstanding. We all will remember that semi-final against England, where he passed by Andrew and Carling as if they weren't there, pushed Underwood out of the way, and he trampled on Cat. That was a try to remember. But remember, he was ill then. He had hidden this from the selectors, from his all-black coach and players, from everyone in the world. The kidney disease had struck by that time. So it is remarkable what he did, bearing in mind that he had that disease. Eventually he had to tell everyone about the disease, which made life a bit different for him. But he still carried on, because come the 1999 World Cup, he scored 8 tries in that World Cup. And in the semi-final against France, whilst his try against England was probably the most phenomenal in its power and destruction, what was quite astounding was the try he scored against France, with 8 French players hanging on to him, trying to stop him getting over the line, and they just couldn't. He came to Wales, of course, 2005. By this time now, his physical prowess were clearly waning. He was never the player he was, but it showed the determination, the character, the spirit that he still wanted to carry on. And indeed, I saw some program about him the other day where he was hoping to have made a return to the All Black side after being with Cardiff Blues, but it never was really on the cards. And when he joined Cardiff, he only played about 15 games, something like that. The power, the drawing power of the man was, it was a Christmas time game against Newport Gwent Dragons, and it was a record crowd for that game. That was the phenomenon. But I'll finish on one thing. There was another side to Jonah Lomu. Size and power, yes. Searing pace, but he was a great human being. A humble man, a respectful man. And those who might have been reading his book, he had not had an easy life, mind. The relationship between him and his father was a difficult one, a terrible one. So he'd been through difficult times, and yet through it all, he survived until suddenly he passed away. Was it the greatest ever? We can never say. But certainly what we can say is there will never be again another 20-year-old who will come onto the scene of rugby, make the impact he did. And he certainly was a once-in-a-lifetime player.